The Failure of Failure, written by Dr. Ben Levin. Dr. Levin is a professor at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, University of Toronto. He is widely known for his work in educational reform, educational change, and educational policy and politics. Levin's article begins with the quote, "Kids all over the country are counting the days until school is out and awaiting year-end report cards, but not too anxiously. After all, very few will fail, even if teachers feel they should, leaving some to wonder what lesson that's teaching." His thoughts stem from the idea that in this day, students should not fail a grade, or even a course. He provides evidence throughout The Failure of Failure that supports the idea that failing a student does more harm than good in his or her future academic success. So what is one of Canada's most debated problems in education? What are we going to do about students who are not making the grade? Levin argues that instead of focusing on the grades of our students, we should be focusing on the learning that is taking place in the classroom. Levin provides 4 main points to prove why failure is not working. His first main point is that research evidence is clear that retaining students is not a way to generate greater effort. It is actually proven to be an ineffective policy, and it fails to improve student outcomes in the long term. To give you an example of this, some of the highest scoring countries, such as Japan, have almost no failures. In Ontario alone, 25% of high school students do not graduate. So what is wrong with the education system in Canada? Research in psychology has found that success generates more effort than failure. This means that when failing in any area of their lives, individuals of all ages will reduce their effort and become more attentive in areas in which they succeed. Many kids continue to fail or be failed in Canadian schools. In elementary schools, kids are held back for a variety of reasons, whether they're failing a subject or their parents have requested that the child stay back based on the maturity level of the student. The question is, where is the success coming from in that? Where is the child learning something new? As I mentioned earlier, research has proven that failing students is an ineffective practice, yet the educational system has not changed its practices. In a large part, this is due to the fact that schooling systems are shaped by the past, and failing is a long-standing school practice. There have been teachers that argue, saying that they are feeling pressured to give students passing marks, and that students do not, in their view, deserve those marks. The concern that teachers have being taken seriously. Students need to learn in the classroom. That's why they're there. Teachers cannot allow them to pass without having learned a thing. But this is why we need to focus less on the failing grades and focus more on the learning that's being done in the classroom. As Levin has mentioned, is that school grading practices are arbitrary. Different teachers have different expectations for the same work. Some mark harder than others. Some teachers have more personal relationships with some of their students. For these reasons, how can a grade be considered concrete? How do we know that one teacher's 46% is not an 80 in the eyes of another? Punishing students who seem to lack skills seems to be common sense for a lot of people. That's what we've always known. The belief that punishment will improve behavior is believed to be true in all aspects of life, not just education. But there is an issue, and Levin describes that we need alternatives to figure out what to do with students who are not progressing in the classroom. Many answers to this question have been proposed. However, there are so many students in the system that there's no right answer for every individual. Each student that is having trouble in the classroom has an individual reason why. There is no concrete answer that will help every student in the education system. Every case is unique. Teachers need to try to focus on those students and find out ways to help them. The Ministry of Education's document, Growing Success, outlines many ways for students to be successful in the classroom. One of the main elements of this document is that teachers are fair, are transparent, and are equitable for all students. If all students are given the opportunity to achieve success, all students will. They are all given the opportunity, the resources, the motivation, and are given the exact expectations of what the teacher is looking for. Every student in the classroom will learn. Whether that's a new idea, a new skill, it doesn't matter what they are learning, it's that they are learning. The classroom is not just about grades. As Levin have stated, it's about learning how to socialize, learning how to take notes, learning new skills, learning how to learn. These things will be carried forward into every single student's future. Using these principles, students will succeed in the classroom. I've seen many examples of the failure of failure. One boy was in a locally developed class. He failed everything he did in this class. And because he failed everything he attempted to do, he stopped showing up. What happens when you don't show up to class? You lose marks. He lost marks he didn't have. Now, this boy was not a stupid kid. He had ADHD and he lacked motivation. He needed a hands-on class. He needed a teacher to have him moving around the class and complete tasks without sitting in his desk. When he was stuck there, he felt trapped and his mind wandered. Now, when I had him moving, even from his desk to the board, I had his utmost attention. He told me that he didn't need to be failing the course. All he needed was a different method of learning that was not offered to him. And being a 15-year-old boy, he did not know how to ask for what he needed in order to succeed. If he had that understanding of himself, he could have moved into the applied class and studied with students who had similar knowledge and understanding of the content. Teenage years are hard. Adding in failing tests and assignments, they're given reason to skip classes, and they feel that they have an excuse as to why they failed a particular course. If they are given the resources, the tools, and the support of their teacher, teenage students would achieve greater accomplishment. The ideas presented in Levin's article have given me a different perspective on the classroom. I used to think that students who were not progressing, I thought they had to fail. I did not think there was another option in order for them to recognize what they had to do in order to move on to the next grade. I used to think people like Ben Levin, who said that students should not fail, were crazy. I knew student learning had to be achieved. There are a number of ways to ensure that it is. If that means that more one-on-one time is needed with a particular student, then so be it. Tutoring sessions, regular meetings with teacher, student, and parent present to discuss the student's progress. These are just some of the ways that student success can be made. Failing a student realistically demotes their self-confidence and gives the student the opportunity to give up on him or herself. This is one of the worst things that a teacher or a parent could do. With these ideas in mind, I will ensure I find every resource that I can in order to show my students that I will give them every opportunity to succeed in learning. Whether the student takes that help and that support, now that's a personal choice. I would never let a student who cannot grasp the content of a subject as quickly as the rest of the class learning. I will give every student the opportunity to succeed, to learn, and more importantly than both of those, enjoy learning, because it is an ongoing process.